Hello everyone. Today it is our third day of the lecture. So it is the revision lecture 3 that we are going to discuss. And in this revision lecture, we are first of all going to discuss story writing, and then we will jump on to our writing skill section, that is non-finites, modals. So let's begin with the story writing. So what is a story writing? A story writing is nothing but putting your imagination or a real experience in front of the readers. But whenever you write in examination, you are told to put in your experience or your imagination, which can be given a form of a reality. Whenever you write, whenever you put in your imagination, you have to ensure that the readers get engrossed in your story in such a way that they consider your imagination as a realistic story. So whenever you start writing with your story, there are 5 things that you need to be very careful of in order to get these 5 marks in the examination, since all the writing skills are for 5 marks. So the first thing that you have to be careful of is your title or the heading or the beginning. So for that, if you have managed to give a proper title and an attractive title, you're certainly going to get 1 mark. Then, whenever you write, you have to ensure that you use simple yet powerful vocabulary and grammar and the framing of sentences. Many of the people, many of them, or many students have this doubt that whether can we use any complex words. So in my opinion, there is nothing called as complex or simple. It is what you understand. So use a language which you understand, and in such a way, write it in such a way that the readers can understand what message you want to convey. If you follow that rule, you will certainly get 1 mark for that. Another thing is that before you write a story or any writing skill, ensure that you are putting in some important pointers on a rough sheet, or you can simply create a rough column on the right hand side of your answer sheet. This will help you to reframe your storyline, the outline of it, or it will help you to create the chronology of the story. So writing the points is must. Then once your pointers are ready, put them in a proper order in the story. And finally, check it whether you have put in all the pointers, whether all the pointers are covered by you or not. As I said, the order, the chronology of the story is must. Sometimes we can start the story from anything that is the middle portion of the story or the midway, only to create a suspense. But in such a case, you have to be very careful that by the end, as you advance with the story, each and every aspect, each and every suspense or climax that you have kept is to be disclosed properly. And by the time you reach the conclusion, the entire climax or suspense of the story should be put on the paper properly. If you follow all these pointers while writing the story writing, certainly you're going to get full 5 marks in the paper. So here is a basic format that what all structures you can put in the story before you create one. So think about some important, interesting phrases that you can use in the story in the first paragraph, or you can also make use of some rhetorical questions. So rhetorical questions are something wherein you have the answers understood. Or you can simply put in a short anecdote of yours. Once you have done that, then decide on to how many characters are you going to introduce. In my opinion, the best way to, the best quantity of the characters that you should add is number 3. That means 3 characters are enough to add in the story writing, as it becomes very easy for you and the reader to connect well with those 3 characters. Moving on with the next, plan your plots. Now, plots here means the different scenarios that you are supposed to put in the story. So, for example, let's say you are supposed to put in some crime scenes, horror scenes, and thrillers, fantasies, right? Like sci-fi's, imagination. So whenever you're putting all these scenarios, you should connect them well. Once you have planned and decided your plot, you can then conclude your story, write your story, and then end the story with a very good conclusion or revealing the secret or so. So if you follow these 3 methods, you are certainly going to create a very good story at the end. So now we are moving on to our grammar section, wherein we will be covering non-finites, modal auxiliaries, and tenses. So here we are with non-finite verbs, modal auxiliaries, and tenses for our lecture number 3. But before we start with it, we all know that we have the RoboMeet lectures, the RoboMeet videos, the application which is provided to you, the LMR sheets, which is soon going to be provided to you, and the solving practice sheets, then the workbooks which are provided to you by us are solved by you. And then today, when you're here, after the revision lecture, once again, when you go back and take back this entire material, you're once again going to repeat the method of watching the RoboMeet videos properly, practicing your worksheets, your workbooks, study material provided by the classes, and then if you come up with a doubt, you're supposed to come down to for a doubt solving. So these are the RoboMeet access pages where you can simply go through these pages. That is in the My Bag section. You can find all your study material, wherein you have books related to each subject. You have books related to LMR. Then you have all the extra passages and writing skills if you wish to practice, and the assignments provided to you. Once done, you can also find exercise or worksheets related to grammars. That is your modal auxiliaries, letter writing, non-finite verbs, and so on. Ensure that if you have practiced everything, in order to clear your doubts, you can also discuss them over the forums, which we have, the group forums, which we have on the RoboMeet application itself. Ensure that all the doubts which are provided over there are solved by you, and as well as your doubts are solved in the forum. Invite your friends to discuss the problems on that forum so that everybody can deal with the same problem at the same time. Even after all these things, if you still face any issues and problems and any doubts, you're free to get back to us, and then we can solve the problems all together. So today, as discussed, we are here starting with the non-finite verbs. So what was non-finite verbs? So non-finite verbs are a part of verbs. So what is a verb? Verbs are action words, state of being, and state of having. So they not only have action words in it, but sometimes they also have state of having, that is possession, that is have, has, and had. On the other hand, we also have state of being, that is am, is, are, was, were, do, does, did. So in this manner, we have variety of verbs in it. So here we are with the 2 types of verbs that we have learned so far, that is finite verb and the non-finite. So what does a finite verb say? A finite verb is a verb that carries a subject. That means it shows tense. Only with the help of finite verb we can create a tense. But with a non-finite, we cannot create a tense because it does not have a subject before it. Hence, the definition says a non-finite verb is a verb that cannot carry a subject. Here we are with the sentence, on seeing the injured child, Ram ran to help him. In this case, we know that the word seeing and ran and to help are the verbs. But in this case, if we differentiate between the finite and the non-finite, we will find out, we can observe and find out that seeing is a non-finite verb because it does not have any subject before it, or we cannot even imagine the subject before it. But on the other hand, if we take a look at Ram and ran, here we have the finite verbs. Why? Because ran is a verb which has a subject beside it or before it, that is Ram. So whenever we have a combination of subject plus verb, Ram, ran, it is known as a finite verb. That's not the case with the seeing. And hence Ram ran is a finite verb and seeing is a non-finite. So we prove that finite verb is a subject plus verb or tense, and non-finite verb is no subject, so no tense. If we categorize the non-finite, here we come with the pig formula. Yes, you heard me right. What is pig? So pig formula is the shortcut used for non-finite verbs. P for participles, I for infinitives. So that's how we have pig. That means participles, infinitives, and gerund. So what are participles? Participles are of two types. That is present participle, which is verb plus ing, playing, writing, burning, present participles. On the other hand, past participle, that is ed, en, t, and n. These are the suffixes when used with any verb, they take the form of past participle, such as played, written, burnt, known, etc. Moving on with infinitive. Now, infinitive is the most easiest form of non-finite verb, that is to plus verb. So if we add to plus any base verb, such as to play, to write, to burn, etc., we can form an infinitive. Moving on, what are gerunds? Here we can see that even in gerunds, we have verb who has suffix ing at the end. That is, apart from present participles, also gerunds are verb plus ing, like playing, writing, burning, etc. Here, we always have a confusion that what is a present participle and a gerund. How to identify a present participle and how to identify a gerund. So there are certain steps which we can follow in order to make our identifying easier. So what are the steps? So the first step is that we are supposed to find a verb plus ing in a sentence. If the given verb is verb plus ing, then we have to follow our first step, and that is to ask a question what. Now there are two possibilities. Either you will get an answer for the question what, or you may not get it. If you get verb plus ing as an answer for the question what, we consider that particular word as a gerund. If you don't get the word which is verb plus ing as an answer, we consider it as a present participle. For instance, in this sentence, singing is a good enjoyment. Singing is a gerund because here we get the answer to the question what. For example, what is a good enjoyment? And the answer is singing. Hence, in this manner, we get the answer singing for the question what. That's why we consider this word as a gerund. On the other hand, in this particular sentence, she stood first in the singing competition. If we try to find the answer for the question what, we do not get the answer. We do not get singing as our answer. Let's try. She stood first in what? Can we say singing? No. The correct answer is she stood first in the competition. So here, singing is not my answer for the question what. Hence, we consider singing as a present participle. Another way of finding whether the given verb plus ing is a gerund or no, so we must find out whether the word is acting as a noun. Here, the word singing is acting as an adjective which is qualifying the competition, such as she stood first in the competition. Which competition? Singing competition. So here, the word which is answering or helping us to identify an adjective, that is singing. Because singing is not a noun but an adjective, it is a present participle. Another way, so this is your second method, that is another way to find out whether a given word is a gerund or a participle. Here is a recap of what we just discussed. If you want to find out whether a verb plus ing is a gerund or a participle, we are supposed to ask the question what to the remaining sentence. If we get the verb plus ing as an answer for the question, we consider it as a gerund. If we don't get an answer, we consider this as a participle. Another way of finding whether a given word is gerund or a participle, we check whether the word is a noun or no. If the word is not noun, we consider it as a participle. If it is a noun, we consider it as a gerund. She has a hidden treasure. Now, in this particular statement, hidden is a past participle because it doesn't get answered for the question what, such as she has what? Do we say a hidden? No. She has a treasure, and hidden is acting not as a noun but as an adjective. So because it is not a noun, it is not a gerund, and that's why we consider it as a participle. Now, how to identify a present participle or a past participle? Easy. We have learned that in the past participle, we have suffixes like en, ed, ne, and t. So here we have the en suffix, which is added at the end of the word hide. Hence, it is a past participle. Now let's further move on the second part, that is modal auxiliaries. Now, what is a modal auxiliary? The word auxiliary or auxilium means help. Hence, modal auxiliaries are helping verbs. Now, whom do they help? So, modal auxiliaries always help another verb, that is the main verb or the main action. So, here we go and categorize the auxiliary verbs into two parts, that is primary auxiliaries and modal auxiliaries. When we look at the primary auxiliaries, we find that the very first feature of the primary auxiliary is that they are used as a means by default they can be used as a helping verb. Another feature of the primary auxiliary is that apart from being a helping verb, they can also be used as a main verb. For instance, if I say, I am a boy, here am being the only word in the sentence, this verb is acting as a main verb or main action. But if I say, I am walking like a boy, in this case, we not only have the word am as our verb, but we also have another verb that is walking. In this case, our first verb, that is am, is acting as a helping verb or auxiliary verb, while the word walking is acting as a main verb. So in this case, we can figure out, we can come down to a conclusion that the word am not only works as a main verb, but also as a helping verb. The third feat of primary auxiliaries is that they change with the subject. That means they agree with the subject. As soon as you change the subject from singular to plural, they can change. For instance, Ramesh and Suresh are smart people. In this case, Ramesh and Suresh are plural because they are two people. Hence, we have used the plural form of the verb, that is are. But the moment we change the subject, that is from plural to singular, we have to change the verb as well. For instance, not only Ramesh but also Suresh is a smart person. If you notice, in this case, if you notice in this case, because we have used not only and but also, we have changed the category of Ramesh and Suresh from plural to singular. Hence, we have changed the primary auxiliary from plural to singular, and that is from are to is. Hence, we prove that as we change the subject, we change the verb, that is the primary auxiliaries. These are few of the qualities or three features of primary auxiliaries. Now it's time to check features of modal auxiliary. So the first feature is that they can be used only as auxiliaries. That means we cannot use them as the main action, but we can only use them as helping verbs. For instance, if we say can in the sky, in this particular sentence, if I try using the modal auxiliary can as the only verb, that is the main verb, the sentence is illogical. Hence, we try the another method, that is, we will use the same modal auxiliary as the helping verb. So we can say, I can fly in the sky. Now, in this particular sentence, we can observe that when I use modal auxiliary as the helping verb, For the main verb fly, this sentence becomes a logical one. Hence, we prove that modal auxiliaries, unlike primary ones, cannot be used as main verbs, but they can be definitely be used as helping verbs. On the other hand, another feature of modal auxiliary is that they do not change with the subject. That is, they do not agree with the subject. So how do we prove this? With the example. So here we go. Together. In this particular sentence, we can observe that modal auxiliaries can be used as helping verbs, that is, can, play. But even if we change the subject from, that is, Ramesh and Suresh, from plural to singular, the verbs do not change. So not only Ramesh but also Suresh can play together. Hence prove that here modal auxiliaries do not agree with the subject. That is, it doesn't matter whether we put in a plural verb, a plural subject, or a singular one, the verbs are never going to change. So now we are ready to go one step further and check which are the types of modal auxiliaries. So here we are with modal auxiliaries. So here we start with first can, could, will, would, shall, should, may, might, must, ought to, used to, need to, dare to. Once again, can, could, will, would, shall, should, may, might, must, ought to, used to, need to, dare to. So these are the different types of modal auxiliaries that we have learned. Now it's time to go one more step further and let's check how the different types of functions work for the individual modal auxiliaries. For example, can here can play the role of ability and permission. For instance, I can swim in deep waters. Here, can is working as a ability, while can I borrow your car for a day? Here, the word can is acting as a permission. Moving on with the second one, that is could. Could plays the function of past ability, polite request, suggestion, and permission. In the sentence, I could drive a car when I was in college, could is playing the function of past ability. Whereas, could you help me to carry this box plays the function of polite request. Could plays the role of suggestion in the sentence, we could go to SL World for a picnic. While in the sentence, could I speak to the officer for a minute? It plays the role of permission. Moving on with the word may, it plays the function of possibility, permission, prayer, wish, or curse, and offering help. For instance, if we take a look at the sentence, that is, we may have a holiday tomorrow, it plays the function of possibility. While if I say, may I leave early today? In this sentence, it plays the role of permission. If I say, may God bless you, or may you fall on the road while going home, here, it plays the role of prayer or wish and curse, respectively. But if I say, may I help you to lay the dinner table? In this particular sentence, it plays the role of offering help. Moving on with the next functions with the modal auxiliaries, that is, might. In the question might, here it plays the role of remote possibility. Now, remote possibility is also known as rare possibility. and it plays a role in the sentence, I might go to London next week. Here, it shows how there is a rare possibility of going to the London next week. Will, on the other hand, plays the role of polite request, order, determination, or willingness to do something. So here we have the sentences such as, will you help me with my homework? Will you leave the room immediately? I will not listen to what he says. It plays the role of polite request, order, and determination, respectively. In the modal auxiliary word, we can find the functions such as habitual actions which have happened in the past, or polite request such as they would celebrate Holi in a good manner or grand manner. Here, it conveys a message of past habit. Whereas in the sentence, would you lend me some money? Here it plays the function of polite request. Moving on with another word, that is shall, should, and must. We have a variety of functions such as threat, prohibition, suggestion, obligation, again suggestion, and in must we have obligation, conjecture, guess, compulsion. Let's understand them one by one. In the word shall, we have they shall be punished for their wrongdoing. In this sentence, it is a threat to the person who is going to be punished. In the function prohibition, you say, you shall not go home without my permission. That means you are not allowed to go home without my permission. In the functions of suggestion, we can find the sentence such as, shall we go for a picnic this weekend? Moving on with the word should, when we come down to obligation, obligation means duty, which means if I say, you should help the poor, conveys obligation or a duty. But in the sentence, you should practice maths regularly, it conveys a suggestion or an advice. Now we are moving on to the must. Once again, obligation means a duty. Conjecture or guess means a 50-50 possibility. So when we say we must respect all religions, it conveys our duty or obligation. While when we say she must have forgotten the keys, it conveys a 50% possibility of must have forgotten or she mustn't have. Moving on with the compulsion, we have you must reach the office in time. It conveys a compulsion. That means you have to reach anyhow. So in this manner, we have covered all the modal auxiliaries with their functions. And now, we are now going ahead with the next part of our concept, that is tenses. But before that, here I am laying of the entire verb which we have learned so far. Here we start with the definition. So how do we define a verb? That is state of being or state of having. That means ash. Verbs are further divided into finite verbs as well as non-finite verbs. A finite verb can form a tense, while a non-finite verb do not form a tense. In the non-finites, we have learned the pig method, that is, participles, infinitives, and gerund, where infinitive is the easiest form of the verb of the non-finite verb, that is, to plus any verb can form an infinitive. In participles, we have two, present as well as past. Present participle can be identified as any verb plus ing as its suffix, while a past participle can be identified as verb plus en, ed, ne, and t as its suffix. At the same time, gerunds are also verb plus ing, but they act as a noun. And the best way to identify that is by asking a question, what? And if we get the answer, it is a gerund. On the other hand, finite verbs, as we discussed, are divided into two, that is, main verb and the auxiliary verbs or helping verbs. Main verbs can be further classified as transitive and intransitive verbs, where we consider as whenever a verb carries a direct object, that is, without any preposition in between the subject and the object, we consider it as a transitive verb. But whenever a verb does not carry a direct object, we consider it as intransitive verb. Moving on with the auxiliaries, they are classified as two, that is primary and modal. In primary auxiliaries, we have the be, have, and the do forms of the verb, while in the modal auxiliaries, we have all the modal auxiliaries which can be used only as a helping verb. So in this manner, we have learned the structure of the verb, and now it's time to go ahead with the tenses. So in tenses, we can learn that they are of three types, that is past, present, and future. But these are the basic three tenses, whereas in all, we have 12 different tenses. That is simple present, simple past, and simple future. Present perfect, past perfect, future perfect. Present continuous, past continuous, future continuous. And present perfect continuous, past perfect continuous, future perfect continuous. In this manner, they all form 12 different tenses. During the examination, we can face these two types of questions, either identify or change the tense. Now it's time to get on to the details of the simple, perfect, continuous, and the perfect continuous. In simple tense, simple present and simple past are the easiest to identify. That is, they only carry single verb. And whenever we have only single verb in the sentence, we do not have the helping verb. That means they are always known as the main verbs. That is, in that particular case, we can use the singular and the plural, that is speak and speaks respectively, go and goes respectively in the present tense, while spoke and went in the past tense. When we move on to future tense and the rest of the tenses, they all carry two verbs each. That is, the first one is the helping verb, while the second verb is always the main verb. For example, in simple future, in the place of helping verb, we use will or shall, use singular verb, that is, will speak or will go. So in this manner, we have learned how the tenses in the simple tense are formed. Now, it's time to learn the compound tenses, but before we learn the compound tenses, we have to keep in mind the present participle and the past participle forms of the verb. That is, verb plus ing and verb plus en, ed. For instance, speak, speaking, spoken. Give, giving, given. Finish, finishing, finished. Do, doing, done. Sleep, sleeping, slept. These are a few of the examples of present participles and the past participles. Now it's time to go ahead with the that is the perfect, the continuous, and the perfect continuous. And they are going to use these two forms of verbs, that is present participle and past participles. Hence, Understanding these was much important. If we look at the present perfect, past perfect, and the future perfect, we will realize that in these tenses, that is, recently finished action is conveyed. And that's why in the present perfect, we use have and has in the place of helping verb, while en or ed, that is past participle form of the verb, in the main verb. Same with the past perfect, that is had in the helping verb, en ed past participle in the main verb. For future perfect, we use will have in the helping verb and ened, that is past participle, in the main verb. Hence, the sentence will form like car for present perfect. I had driven a car for past perfect, and I will have driven a car for future perfect. You can notice that in the place of helping verb, taken help of the have forms of the verb, that is, have and has for present tense, had for past tense, will have for future tense. And in the main verbs of all three perfect tenses, I have used the past participle form of the verb. Moving on with the present continuous, past continuous, and the future continuous. Continuous is the tense where actions keep on going, or there is a continuous process. So, in this manner, in this case, we have a different set of helping verb as well as the main verb. In the helping verb, we take help of is, are for the present tense, was and were for the past tense, while will be for the future continuous tense. While in the main action, we take, we make, we convert the main verb into the ing form, that is, I am driving a car for present tense, I was driving a car for past tense, I will be driving a car for future tense. This is a way in which we create the continuous tense. Let's take a look at the perfect continuous tenses of present, past, and future. The present continuous, the present perfect continuous says that any action which has started long ago and it still continues is known as a perfect continuous tense. Since perfect continuous is a mixture of perfect as well as a continuous tense, we are going to pick the helping verbs from the perfect tense while the main verbs from the continuous tense. That is, have and has from the perfect tense for present, and while for past tense we will be picking up had from the perfect tense, ing from the continuous tense. In the future, we will be picking up will have from the perfect tense and ing. Since the two tenses are going to be one, we are going to attach them, we are going to merge them by adding a connector. Now, which word is acting as a connector here? So, the word is BEEN. That means being. Hence, for perfect tense, that is a present one, we say, I have been driving a car. For past tense, we say, had been driving a car. And for future tense, we say, I will have been driving a car. So, with this, we have covered up all our tenses efficiently. Thank you so much, and see you once again in the next lecture.